I'm Bill O'Donnell, and welcome to another program on spirituality. Today in the studio, I'm excited to have as my guest Sister Emilia Atencia, Dominican sister, currently serving at St. Francis Cathedral Basilica, and a native New Mexican. Welcome, sister.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you. I've been seeing you scurrying around behind the scenes for years, first over at Santa Maria de la Paz, and now, when were you first over there?
I went there in 1990 when the parish was started. And I was there for 10 years. And then after that, I took a few months of sabbatical and did some things that I wanted to do that I hadn't gotten a chance to do. And then because I take care of my 94-year-old mother, well, she wasn't 94 at the time, I couldn't go away to do the sabbatical things that the sisters did. So I stayed home, and then afterwards I was getting a little bored, so I asked Father Jerome, do you have a part-time job? I couldn't work full-time because of my mother. And so he gave me a part-time job that sometimes becomes a little full-time, like especially during Holy Week.
So, sister, you grew up in northern New Mexico. You were born where?
I was born and reared in the Espanola Valley, we call, because a lot of people don't know where Santo Niño is. It's on Highway 76. And my family has lived there for a long, long time, probably since the 1600s. And I went to school in a little two-room schoolhouse first, and then I went to school at Santa Cruz when the Dominican sisters were there. And then that's where I got to know them. And we had, the Dominican sisters had a school in Peñasco, a high school, a grade school. Then they had one in Ranchos de Taos. They had one at San Juan Pueblo, which is Oquewingue now. One at Santa Cruz. They had another one at Fatima, Belen, and San Ignacio in Albuquerque. So I knew that there were a lot of Dominican sisters, and we had a lot of young women that had gone to Grand Rapids to be sisters. So I wasn't the first one, and I wasn't the last one. And that's how I was scared to go, but I knew that others had already pioneered going, because I went in '54, and that's a long time ago.
Pre-Vatican II.
That's right.
So you've seen all of it.
I've seen the pre-Vatican, and I remember when the priest used to face the altar, and when Mass was in Latin, and then going through Vatican II, and then to now.
Did you grow up speaking Spanish?
Yes. When I went to school, I didn't know any English. And so my parents were, I would say, smart enough that they taught us two languages, and they said, well, we don't know the English correctly, and we don't want to teach it to you incorrectly, so you might as well go to school and learn it correctly. So, of course, we were all in the same boat, because we were all neighbors, and we spoke Spanish at home, and then we went to school, and we learned English, and we went to pre-first, and then we went to first, so it took us a little bit longer because we didn't know the language. And so I was lucky, or I am lucky, I should say, that I am bilingual, because it has afforded me a lot of opportunities. I've been an interpreter in Michigan when I was there to those that needed an interpreter. One time at an airport, they called over that they needed somebody who could speak Spanish, because it was a Cuban man. They're from Cuba. They didn't understand any English. So I went, and I was his interpreter. So it's been very good. I feel I'm two people, because I can speak two languages.
Yeah. And when you grew up, you have brothers and sisters?
I'm the oldest, and I have three brothers.
And you told us before, but you're the only one that went into religious life.
Right, I'm the only one that went to religious life, yes.
Was it a religious home? Were you very?
Yes, we were, my family were very religious, and they were always involved with the church. My great-great-grandfather built the Santo Niño Chapel that is not too far from where I live. And I live in the little village of Santo Niño, which is between, as you could say, the Taos Highway and Santa Cruz, which is my home parish. And my father and mother were always involved in the church and in helping out. So, and then I went to a Catholic school and saw the sisters. And when I thought about becoming a sister, I thought, well, where, or should I go, or shouldn't I go? There's always, and I was young. See, I was only 19, just out of high school. And I thought, well, I'll go, and then if I don't like it, I can always come home, But it was something that I felt very, very fulfilled. And after 55 years, I guess I'm still being fulfilled by what I have acquired from my community and from the people with whom I have worked.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons I wanted you to come in to share that, because we often don't hear from the people like yourself behind the scenes, the ones who really are running the parishes and the schools and the activities are often women religious or men religious behind the scenes, but you don't see them that often. You don't get a chance to hear from them.
That's right. Well, women religious have run high schools, grade schools, colleges. I mean, when we had so many, now we don't have that many, but they educate a lot of the American Catholics. And I taught school for 22 years. I taught the intermediate grades, which I learned a lot. And it's been very, very good for me because you have to study the history and you study geography. So when people come from, to the cathedral or to Ranchos de Taos, where I was a docent, and I'm a docent at the cathedral too, and they say that they came from Switzerland. I said, well, what part of Switzerland? The French part, the German part, the Italian part, or the Rado Roma? He says, how do you know that? Have you been there? I said, no, I've never been to Switzerland, but I learned that in grade school.
Oh, wow.
So, and the capitals, so it helped me a lot with the geography classes that I taught.
I can imagine. What type of training did you receive in the convent?
Well, when we went, we were what were called postulants, which is the first part, and we went to school, and we studied, the liberal arts and theology, and then we became novices, and there we'd study scripture and religious life, and then we went back to college before we went out to teach. I started teaching I entered the convent in 54, and then I started teaching in 1958. And so we had to have a little college behind us before we got a certificate to teach. And my first teaching job was to teach fifth graders at St. Anthony's, Grand Rapids. And our mother house is in Grand Rapids too. And then I went to other parts of Michigan, and I always found the people so friendly in Michigan. They're such good, wonderful people. In fact, I still hear from them after being away for many, many years. I still hear from just last week somebody called me from Suttons Bay, where I had been for 6 years, it's almost kind of like home.
And so in those days, of course, all the sisters wore habits?
Right. We wore habits we wore habits at the very, very beginning, long habits. They were white with a black veil, because that's a Dominican tradition. And then after Vatican II, in the 65, 68, we started modifying them. And so the habits got a little bit shorter. We still wore a veil, and we wore usually like a two-piece outfit. And then we never changed to what you would call civilian clothes till probably in the 70s. And that's when we didn't have to wear veils. And in our community said, whoever wants to wear the habit can wear the habit. And we still have sisters that wear the habit. And they like it, and that's fine, They left it up to them to either decide to wear a habit or not to wear a habit.
How have vocations changed since those days?
Oh, when I entered, we had, I think, 12 in our class, and now you have very few women that go to become sisters. So we're kind of having less and less. We have a few, of course, at that time, they entered young, and now they wouldn't admit you as a young person. They would say, you be established in your profession, you know what you want to do, we want a mature person. And we have one or two that come, but not too many.
So it's shifted to older women who are
Right.
more
Oh, yes.
secure in what
Yeah,
they're doing.
that's what they would admit now.
So tell us exactly, what are the benefits to you as a person in your spiritual life in becoming a religious woman?
Well, I think that there are a lot of benefits. First of all, becoming a Catholic and becoming, in the teaching profession, you are able to teach about God that you can in other places. And then, I taught for 22 years, and then after that I started doing parish work. And that's very, very rewarding, because you have, a lot of women and a lot of men won't talk to priests, and they'll talk to me, and they'll, so I don't know, I counsel them the best I can in my own practical way, and I try to give them the idea of what is probably best for them as a religious person. I try to get them involved in church work. Sometimes when people need it after the death of somebody, they're lonely or after a divorce. So, well, why don't you come and help, you know? And they say, well, we didn't know you did this. We didn't know you did that. They have no idea what goes on, like you say, behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And, well, somebody had to do it, you know, like even decorating the church. When people show up, they say, well, who decorated? Well, we don't know. They don't even pay attention to it sometimes, but they say it's beautiful. Well, who did it, you know? But people don't know. And we have people that decorate the church. We have people that have to take care of the candles. We have people that do the dusting. And people sometimes enjoy doing that because they have to get away from home.
Mm-hmm. I notice when I'm over there on Saturdays, you go on the Sacrament Reconciliation, I always see you, and all the women who I see are people that are coming to help. They all have a smile on their face.
Yes.
It seems to be gratifying work. Why is it that?
I don't know why. They come and nobody forces them to come. They don't get paid. They're all volunteers. Yeah. And so they come and they're happy doing what they're doing, and they say it's very spiritual for them. Right now we have about 20 volunteers that are helping to paint the stenciling of the church. Well, I mean, they're all volunteers, and they're as happy as they can be. Yeah. And they're doing a very, very good job.
Well, for the people who aren't coming in or that you don't see, what advice or encouragement would you have for them at home in terms of if they've got issues with the church or with their families, that sort of thing? What's the best advice you could think of just in a general way to help them get through their dilemma?
Well, we all have problems.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one that doesn't have problems. There's no one that isn't carrying a cross. There's no one that says, my life is perfect, unless maybe it's a little child. But other than that, there's always problems. There's always heartaches. There are always disappointments. And the church is the same way. You know, you have a lot of wrinkles in the church.
Wrinkles.
And then you have a lot of wrinkles in your family, too. What family is perfect? And it's the same way with the church. Well, I would say to them, you know, come and join us. You know, you're here, you're united with, at church, you're united with all of these people that are offering their prayers to God, their thanks to God. You join them, and also their pain. You're suffering, you're in pain, you're disappointed, you're hurting, you're broken. I mean, and we're all broken people, and we're all sinful people, but join with them and offer it up to God. Mm-hmm. That's what I would tell, and that's what I've told people to do. You know, come and join the people that are hurting. You know, you're not the only one. They're hurting too. And sometimes they come, and sometimes they come for a while, and sometimes they don't come back. You know, you don't always win. Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned about the church. I mean, you've seen the good and the bad and whatever. What is your perspective, you know, as a longtime woman religious? How do you see the church today?
Well, I see the church is changing very, very much, and it has changed a lot with Vatican II. And some people, we have this deal about, you know, has it changed for the better? Well, for some people it has. For some people they've been disappointed that they no longer have the Mass in Latin, that the sisters don't wear habits. So the church, like everything else, a tree changes, animals change, people change, even the earth changes. The church is changing, and you just have to bounce with the punches, you know, and look at the positive instead of the negative.
Tell us about those positive things. What are the most positive things about the church that you've experienced?
Well, the positive is people. I mean, people are wonderful. The church is people. Otherwise, it's a building. I mean, it could be empty, and it's a building that has nobody in there. The church, it's a people. You see some of them, their faith that they have. You know, the older people have a lot of faith. They don't have any masks. They don't have to. And some of the younger ones, they find peace in church. Some might not, but a lot of them that come do find peace. And they find joy, and they find hope. And like they say, when you're down, the only place to look is up. You can't look down anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to look up, and sometimes that's where they find God. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's in your brokenness that you find God. Mm-hmm.
You know, today you hear a lot of people's perspective, I mean, a lot of women's perspective, you know, that the church is, you know, overly oriented towards the priests and the men in the church. What is your experience with that, and how has that played out for you?
Well, they're right. It's mostly But that's the way it is, and what can you do about it? You know, you just have to accept it the way it is, or be angry about it. So take your choice.
Yeah, I don't think the anger works for me anyhow.
Well,
because I'm getting too many blessings from it to
to be
worry
angry.
about these things. Yeah. So how about for vocations? What can we say to women out there, for instance? What are the benefits, as I said, about being a sister today? Who are the type of women that would be drawn to the church as a religious?
Probably people that want to serve, people that want to work with people. Sometimes you want to work with children. Now we have sisters that do all kinds of things. We have sisters in the peace movement in our place. One of our classmates is in the peace movement, something I probably wouldn't be because I would come kind of scared of a chicken. But I mean, she's in the peace movement. We have sisters that are missionaries. We have 2 midwives that are in Peru, that we have a clinic there for prenatal, giving birth to children, and then postnatal. That's what they do. We have others that are still teaching. We have others that do social work. I think we have all kinds of things that the sisters can do. And you have a support system with your sisters. There's a good support system. It's something that sometimes you can change jobs, and because we don't have anything, you know, I can leave and go to another place, and I don't have to think of what am I going to do with my refrigerator and what am I going to do with my house, and I don't have one. So I guess it's a very freeing thing and I think if more women would realize how happy you can be, they would try it, but they don't think they're going to be happy. They sometimes think that, oh, they're going to be like prisoners. That's what they used to tell them. What are you going to do the convent for? You're going to be like a prisoner. Well, I don't feel like a prisoner.
And from a woman's perspective, what has been your experience with the sacraments? Receiving the sacraments has been what to you?
Well, a beautiful thing. Baptisms, how parents are prepared now. They have to go to class, and so that they have a responsibility. It's just not like it used to be where the godparents would come and take the child and go to church and baptize and bring it back. And now they go to church, or they go to class, let's put it that way. And somebody tells them the responsibility, and the same way with confirmation. And of course the Eucharist is the same way. And marriage is the same way. You know, you have to go through a process of, we have what are called sponsor couples, and they have a very good book where they teach the couples about marriage, about finances, about dealing with in-laws, with one another, forgiveness, which is very, very good, because that's one of the things that we have a lot of couples that do not stay together. And sometimes it's the children that suffer after that.
Have you done any counseling in that area?
Yes and no. I'm not really a counselor, but I listen to a lot of things. A lot of people tell me a lot.
So what are some of the major problems that people are experiencing out there today?
A commitment, I think. You know, I think that, you know, they'll tell me, you know, well, my wife doesn't want to be married anymore, or my husband doesn't want to be married anymore, and that's very difficult.
And you mentioned with the family, it's the challenge. How are the children holding up under that kind of turmoil?
It's very hard, very, very difficult. Yes, because they're the ones that suffer the most when that happens. If they would only go through a process of counseling and forgiving each other and starting over and seeing what's best for them. But sometimes it's the commitment of, I think it's kind of an American thing too, you know, you don't stay in a job like you used to, you know. People had jobs and that's the only thing they ever did. Now you have 20 or 30 jobs before you're 20.
Do you see mostly, who approaches you more, men or women?
Women.
Do they? They feel more comfortable coming to you?
Yes, I think so, yeah. Sometimes men do. And I've been able to work with people that have to do community service too. I did that in Penasco when I was there. And they'd send them to me and they'd say, would you take care of so-and-so? He has to put in hours. Then I would talk to them, you know. And then when I was in Ranchos, I did the same thing. And I haven't done that much in Santa Fe, but once in a while you get a judge that sends somebody to you and you have to sign. And they help you out, and it's good. It's good. I have found that very rewarding. is helping people that have to do community service.
Do you assign the community service, or just monitor it, or what?
I
what is your
monitor,
role?
and yeah, for instance, if they send me something, I say, well, okay, you can help us with this and that, and then I'll sign your papers, and yeah, they have to kind of come whenever we're there, or sometimes you can. I had one in Penasco that used to do it on his own because he was very, very trustworthy, and he did a lot of things on his own, which is fine.
How did they find you as someone to seek out to be the monitor of that activity?
I don't know. I mean, when I was in Penasco, some judge, I guess, knew about me, and they'd say, well, we're going to, can we send somebody to help you out? And then they have to do so many hours of community service, and the same way with ranchos. It was the probation officers that sometimes sought me out.
So we don't have complete separation of church and state.
Not really. And in Santa Fe, I dealt with a guy one time that the judge sent him. He was, I guess, on drugs, or I don't know what it was. Anyway, so he gave so many hours of service that he had to, and I haven't had that many in Santa Fe as I had up north.
But in your interactions with them, are you able to talk to them about their relationship with their families and with God and with
I
the
feel
church?
that that's my responsibility. If they come to me, I feel that that's my responsibility to talk to them about God and about their families and their life. Is this what you want to spend the rest of your life doing? What does it do? Where has it gotten you? Are you on the right path? That's what I talk to them about.
Have you noticed if there's been any difference in them if they come back to the church as a part of their rehabilitation? Has it made a difference?
Yeah, some have.
Has it made a difference for them?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I can think of two that it made a big difference. I don't know, and then I leave, and so I don't know what has happened to them. I go to one place and I'm there for a while, and then I go to another place, so I don't know for sure.
Tell me about your family. Has your being a religious been helpful for them?
Well, I would think so, but they were always religious as a whole, and now maybe it's very, very helpful for my mother because I don't have a home. So I moved in with her to take care of her, and then I don't have a family, so I can't say, well, I have to go take care of my kids. I have to go take care of my husband, and so I live with her and take care of her. So that's really my primary duty, and then I work part-time.
How about, do you have nieces or nephews?
Yes, I have one nephew and 3 nieces.
And what's their life like today? I mean, I'm wondering how the young kids are surviving with all the upheavals that are going on.
Well, they seem to be doing all right, in their own life. I don't know for sure, but they seem to, and if not, they don't tell me about it.
They don't come and talk to their auntie who's a nun and talk to them about their problems?
No, they don't. No, they probably talk to somebody else.
Okay. Well, in the few minutes we have left, what advice would you have for people who are just not on board? They're not utilizing the service of the church. They're not part of the community of it. What advice would you have for them in terms of advancing in their spiritual life or seeing the benefits of it?
Well, I would say come and see. Come and see. That's what Jesus said to the apostles. Come and see. Come and see. And I know Monsignor Jerome always says to people that want to register in the church, he says, go and date the other churches.
Date the other churches.
Date the other churches. This might not be the best one. Go to the different churches, date them, and see what fits into your personality. And then you decide where you want to register. And I would say the same thing, maybe you don't like it at this parish or that parish. Well, that's not the only parish in town. Go to where you are growing spiritually. And I'm sure you can find one. Everybody can grow spiritually with somebody, and get involved. I think that's a way that, like you say, the people that are over there helping, and sometimes it's not the cleanest work that we do, are happy. Maybe that's what you need, to get involved and make the best of it as far as coming to prayer, offering, like I said before, join with people that with their hurts and their pains and their disappointments and offer them up to God with the many people that are there. They're probably in the same boat you are.
How about with regard to the sacraments? Have you encouraged people to go to confession and communion, and what's been the reaction?
Yes, I've encouraged them. A, a good reaction, I think, you know, at least they listen to me. I don't know what they do afterwards, but they do listen.
I mean, so they'll hear the benefits. I mean, I know myself, you see me over there, you know, at least once a month, usually twice a month. It's just because I feel better. I was telling the Archbishop when he was on the show, I says, you know, when I go to confession, I feel like I've taken a spiritual shower and I come out feeling clean. And then when I go to communion, I feel a little extra zing. And the camera cut to him. He says, oh, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, and I says, well, I'd love to have that on my electronic tombstone. The Archbishop couldn't. At least I'm on the right track.
Yeah. The Archbishop agreed with you, and you agree with him.
Well, no. Well, I mean, I was telling him that was my experience, and he was agreeing with it. Yeah. What do you think of our Archbishop?
Oh, he's very good. He's done a lot for the diocese, and so I'm happy with him.
Yeah, he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Okay. Any of the final comments? Just in the last couple minutes we have. Any thoughts that of things that you've learned over the years? I mean, advice for people at home in their spiritual lives.
Well, I think that your prayer life, I think that if you get up in the morning and offer your day to God, you get more out of it than if you don't. And then take time at night to pray too, and in between, and pray with your children, bless them. I had a very good family in Penasco, and I told the lady, what do you do to those kids? They're so good. She says, I bless them every time they go to school. She says, I bless them, I make a sign of the cross. I say, be good, be beautiful, and be kind to everybody. Well, what a nice thing to tell your children. And they were wonderful children. They still are.
Yeah, it makes a difference if the parents are putting positive things into their kids and let the other things sort of drift away on their own.
Right. I think being a positive person adds a lot to a family, being very positive.
And that, again, that's another beauty of coming to church.
Yes.
It's pretty hard to, you know, remain negative if you're coming to receive the body and blood of Christ.
That's right. And I think you've said the right thing.
Well, that's good. Well, it's been a joy to have you here,
Thank
Sister
you.
Emilia. Thank you for coming and sharing some of that homegrown wisdom that you've learned and shared with us. And I hope some of this has been of value for you at home. If you want to contact Sister, she's at the St. Francis Cathedral Basilica, and it should be in the credits. Otherwise, it'll be in the phone book in Santa Fe. And we'd love to hear from you. If this program has been of any value to you, we'd like to know that. See our credits in the back, and we'd like to get your feedback, any recommendations you might have for future programming. So on behalf of everybody here, Sister Emilia, thank you again. And for our director, Marshall, and people behind the scenes, Alan and Lee, and George in the background, I want to thank everybody for participating, and thank you for viewing. So this is Bill O'Donnell saying stay tuned next week for another program, hopefully, on spirituality.